Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Adib Danial bin Mazli from Section 1, and this is my presentation for my research proposal, Effects of Bilingualism on Children's Writing Skill. So this presentation are divided into three parts, which is part one is introduction part. We have background of the study, statement of the problem, research gap, significance of the study, research objective, and research question. Whereas in part two and three, I will be talking about literature review and methodology. We have research design, sampling, instrument, data collection, data analysis, and ethical consideration. So for the background of the study, Malaysian parents nowadays urge their children to be fluent in languages, or basically they want their children to be bilingual. So based on Rosetta Stone, the term bilingual refers to someone who is fluent in two languages. For example, someone who can communicate in both English and Spanish. So Dong mentioned in his article that this occasion was due to the mindset of having more languages resulting in a more intelligent human being, and by being bilingual, it will provide more opportunities for their children in terms of continuing their education to a higher level. So, for the statement of the problem, it is not proven that being bilingual affects one's level of intelligence. Parents' effort to make their children understand the subject they are learning may be useless because the assumption that being bilingual will make their children smarter may be wrong. Moreover, there is no exact formal medium on how to measure one's intelligence based on the status of being bilingual or monolingual. Next is the research gap. Various research from the previous time has focused on only how bilinguals speak and verbal action. For instance, in the research of Kaushanskaya in 2014, they made a research on effects of classroom bilingualism on task shifting, verbal memory, and word learning in children. Their research was focusing on the verbal effect of bilingualism on children. Thus, for this paper, it will be focusing more on the non-verbal parts, which is the written form, and also to study the bilingual effect on the children's writing skills. So this research is important because it influences the area of education in our country. Malaysia is getting more globalized these days, meaning that educators from kindergarten until university level must meet more linguistic criteria than ever before. Educators need to face a new challenge in doing their duty by learning new ways of teaching. So the students are varied in terms of their cultural background, so it is a need for the educator to find a proper teaching method to suit the students' way of learning. So for the research objective of this study, we want to see whether bilingual children have more advanced writing skills than monolingual children, and we want to determine which method of teaching is most beneficial to bilingual and monolingual students. For the research questions, does being bilingual improve one's writing skill? And what method of teaching is most beneficial to bilingual and monolingual students? So for the second part of this presentation, we have literature review. I found a study by Blom in 2017 entitled Cognitive Advantages of Bilingual Children in Different Socio-Linguistic Contexts. So, in this research, they compared three groups of bilingual children aged 6 to 7 years old in the Netherlands to a monolingual control group. They wanted to see if the bilingual cognitive advantage is influenced by the socio-linguistic environment in which the language is used. So, aside from the nation's major language, which is Dutch, all three bilingual groups were exposed to a minority language. A regional language, which is French, was taught to two bilingual groups, while a migrant language was taught to a third bilingual group, which is Polish. So, all of the children participated in two working memory tasks, which are verbal and visual spatial. The children also participated in two attention tasks, which are selective attention and interference suppression. So, for the finding part of this study, bilingual children outperform monolinguals on selective attention. The Frisian Dutch group and a subgroup of migrant children who were quite good in Polish showed the highest cognitive effects of bilingualism. In the Limburgish Dutch sample, the impact was less pronounced. So, bilingual children more often show an effect of response competition than monolingual children, demonstrating that bilingual children attend to different aspects of the task rather than monolingual children. For both verbal and visual spatial working memory, no bilingualism effects were seen. So for the third part of this presentation, which is the methodology, we have research design. For this study, qualitative method is the most appropriate method since it can properly distinguish data from the children in terms of their writing skill based on their bilingualism and monolingualism in themselves. So Creswell mentioned that in qualitative research, the researcher gathers information through participant observation, interviews, questionnaires on which participants respond in a descriptive manner, meaning that most of the data are not numerical, same as this study. So next we have sampling part. 40 participants will be voluntarily chosen only among the Malay children in Selangor. Children from the age of 7 to 12 years old who are Malaysian as monolinguals and Malaysian who learn Chinese as bilinguals will be the participants. And the participant will not be chosen based on their gender nor their background identity. So for the instrument part of the study, online essay writing samples will be needed for all children. For this writing assignment, the children must create and prepare a 200-word essay on recess time in our school. Any dialogue that is mentioned in the essay is strongly encouraged, and the purpose of this task is to assess their linguistic accuracy, idea building, punctuation, vocabulary, and spelling. So for the data collection of the study, the data will be collected by requesting the assigned activity, which is the written essay, from each participant through email. So the students have 3 days of time to finish the essay, and they also need to submit it to a Google Drive folder that will be created, and the access to the folder will be distributed among the participants. So next we have data analysis. Each writing sample earns a grade based on the grader's evaluation of the essay against a criterion developed by Malaysia's Ujian Pencapaian Sekolah Rendah UPSR, which can be seen in the next slide. So the usage of a rubric to examine the writing samples is advantageous since the evaluator will grade each example writing according to the rubric's categories. So most grading biases depending on the evaluator's judgment of a certain writing trait were eliminated. So the last part is ethical consideration. As mentioned, essay writing will be conducted. One of the ethical considerations of this topic is informed consent. The participant will be informed that their writing will be evaluated by the examiners and the paper will be compared. And verbal consent is frequently used if a participant cannot be present physically throughout the research procedure since this research is conducted online. So the second ethical consideration is voluntary participation. The participants are not being forced to join the study to write the essay and to be examined. And the participants have the ability to withdraw at any time without affecting their opportunity to participate in the future services or the current program. They are to be volunteering to join the study if they want to. So that is all from my presentation. Thank you very much and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.